he's just going to take a terrible pounding. I'm nervous for this fight.
Yeah, so am I. Now, speaking of other fighters, let's talk about a fighter who is up there in years but might not be washed up. Bernard Hopkins. Surprisingly, he's getting a rematch with John Pascal. It's going to happen in Canada. And so I'm surprised that he agreed to have it happen in Canada again. I guess as long as he gets the American refs, he's okay with that. And I mean, it makes the most sense to do it in Montreal because that's where all the fans are going to be. And now, the most surprising thing about this announcement is that it's a multi-fight deal with HBO.
Yeah.
Now, okay, what do you expect from the free match, first of all?
I don't expect it to be as exciting as the first one.
Because there's no surprises.
There's no surprise now. No, what we saw in the first one is what you can see in the second. I don't think Pascal is that great. He tries to emulate Roy Jones like everyone else does, but he doesn't really have the, he doesn't have the same speed of fluidity that Jones did. Hopkins, 46 years old, he's still highly skilled as we saw in the first fight. He still has a lot of will, can throw a lot of punches if he really wants to. And I think this time he knows he has to start a little bit earlier than he did in the last one to really take the title in Canada. Because I thought he won the first fight. It was a draw. That means Hopkins really won.
Right. And I think Pascal knows he's got to come in better shape.
Yeah, exactly.
Fight,
and Chad Dawson's fighting on the undercard. And HBO now looks like it's investing in the light heavyweight division, which I don't know if it's a great investment.
But they're investing in, a 46-year-old
fighter. Yeah, and
fighter.
that's the thing. And I don't, maybe HBO is thinking they're sticking it to Showtime by buying this fight and giving Hopkins a contract like that,
but who is Hopkins gonna fight after?
Yeah, exactly. If he wins this fight, he's gonna be guaranteed to fight Chad Dawson, which I'm scared to think about right now how boring that's gonna be. Because Dawson, I mean, look where we've seen him fight already.
Right.
And Hopkins fights to the level of his opponent. If you don't push him, he's not gonna push you.
Right.
And that type of deal. So.
I mean, the only other fight that I can think of, the only other opponent maybe I would be interested in seeing Hopkins in the ring against, Glenn Johnson. I think Johnson might actually push Hopkins. I think Johnson would have a very legitimate chance of beating Hopkins. Well,
he would, but Johnson's caught up in the Super 6 right now.
Right, of course. So I don't understand.
Yeah, Hopkins is still calling for David Haye too, which is
right. He did on ESPN.
He did. Yeah.
Props to him if he actually is serious about fighting David Haye. That might be an interesting fight.
No, I wouldn't.
I think I don't know if David Haye imposes his will and knocks out Bernard Hopkins. That would be interesting to me. Not that I want to see Bernard Hopkins knocked out, but I just don't know I don't know what HBO is thinking signing him to a multi-fight deal.
Yeah, no, I don't think Hopkins only doesn't fight that often anyways. He's not the type of guy that, takes fights every 6 months. He fights once every year and a half or so, it seems now. So,
you're right. So
that's HBO's gamble right there. They must have an idea of what they want to do by doing this, but, we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, maybe this deal is like a 10-year deal, so he has 2 or 3 fights over the next 10 years.
Hopkins says that. He doesn't have any plans to retire anytime soon. He says he wants to keep on going, and you know what? He looked good enough his last fight that we can't say anything about it.
No, I'm not saying that he should retire. I'm just wondering who they're going to put him in the ring against.
I agree. I really don't want to see the Dawson fight, but if he wins, that looks like what's going to happen.
Okay, so our last segment, we're going to talk about Black History Month. Now, there are a couple of fighters we want to recognize. Iris, why don't you go first?
In Black History Month is you want to mention some of the guys that, we always have the fighters that, of course, get the legitimacy and talked about all the time.
Like
Ali, Henry Armstrong, Sugar Ray Robinson, Joe Louis. But you have to remember the guys in the past from way back that never got the recognition, never had the chance to get a chance at the championship. But they were just as good as those guys. But they just never reached that level because of politics, racism, everything like that. We're talking about guys like Charlie Burley, Jimmy Bivens, Sam Langford, Sam McVeigh, Eddie Booker, Holman Williams, Lloyd Marshall. These guys, they were the heart and soul from way back when. And you have to remember, like guys like Holman Williams and Lloyd Marshall, they had to fight each other over and over and over because no one wanted to fight them.
Right.
And they beat everyone else too. Whenever a white guy would want to fight them, they'd end up fighting them and they'd win. Jimmy Bivens is the same way, And Eddie Futch used to say back in the day that these were, he'd rather watch Holman Williams shadow box than watch any other guy box. Holman Williams actually taught Joe Louis how to box.
Right, very, very well put. And I just want to take a moment and recognize the first black heavyweight champion of the world, Jack Johnson. Now, he not only was an important boxer, in terms of being one of the first modern boxers, he was also an important figure in American history, not African American history. I'm talking about American history. There's only been 2 times where there were national race riots in the U.S. The second time was when Martin Luther King was assassinated. The first time was after July 4th, 1910, when Jack Johnson defended the heavyweight champion against the Great White Hope.
Jim Jeffries.
And Jim Jeffries. So if you get the chance, please read the book Unforgivable Blackness and watch the documentary by Ken Burns. Thank you for watching this week's episode of FCNYC. We'll be back next week to recap the fights. Thank you, Aris.
Thank you.
Have a great night. Watch the fights, everybody.
Good night.